In the world of sports, even the most timeless moments can be soon forgotten. Here one moment and gone the next. But what if there was a way to capture those unforgettable moments and to hold on to the history of the game? I've got a new way to collect that will inspire stat heads and historians alike. Let's data dive. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Data Dive powered by Market Movers. My name is Tyler Nethercott, better known as Teapot. A walk-off home run to win the pennant. A last-second Hail Mary and the crowd storms the field. A buzzer beater from half court to send the rival packing. Sports are full of epic, heart-stopping moments. And when they happen, we feel like we'll remember them forever. But we don't. We quickly forget. We live in a world oversaturated with information, not to mention that Father Time is still undefeated, and as we age, we can't quite remember things the way we used to. If the most exciting, iconic, and important moments are soon forgotten, how much more forgotten are the award-winning and stat sheet stuffing players from year after year? Remember Marshall Faulk in 2000 with the greatest show on turf? Nearly 2,200 yards and 26 touchdowns. Maybe you remember that. But how about Steven Jackson in 2006 with over 2,300 yards and 16 touchdowns? What about Luis Gonzalez in 2001 when he hit 325 with 57 home runs and a 1.117 OPS, finishing third in MVP voting? Well, that's the steroid era for you, with Sosa and Bonds finishing ahead of him. Now, shouldn't we be doing more to remember these legendary seasons and performances? Well, I've come up with a system for that. And as always, this video is brought to you by Market Movers. Try out our brand new sales history feature with millions of sales comp transactions across the largest platforms. Visit marketmoversapp.com and use promo code DIVE when you check out. That'll get you 14 days completely free to try out Market Movers, and then 20% off your membership for life as long as you're subscribed. Now let's get into the data. So like I said, this is for all you stat heads, historians, and diehard sports fans out there. I call this the ultimate collector method. Now, I've done videos in the past about the 27 collector styles over on our main sports card investor channel. Search for that over on that channel. This one, it's a little more intense, a little more refined, a little more focused. It starts and it ends with two of my favorite things, the good old 9-slot binder page and a spreadsheet. So let's look at that spreadsheet. I spent some time recently kind of taking a bunch of data from different websites, slicing and dicing it, and putting it into a template that I think makes sense. And like I said, this isn't for the faint of heart. There's a lot in here. What I did was I put in the year, I put in different categories. So if I click on this, I've got, these things are all sorted alphabetically. Three-pointers made, all NBA first, second, and third team, all rookie first and second team, all-star game MVP, assists, blocks, defensive player of the year, finals, East and West rosters, finals MVP, regular MVP, points, rebounds, rookie of the year, six-man, steals. This is all basketball, but this you can do for any sport. And you don't have to take all of these stat categories. You could start with one, like the scoring leaders from every season. But what I did was I basically put in 9 slots, for example, here for points. This is points per game. These are the top 9 scoring players from that season, and I even put those stats into this sheet. So when I go back in time, I used to always read the back of the sports cards. I collected largely basketball when I was younger. I could rattle off the exact height, weight, as well as the stats by season for many of these players. Obviously, like I said, we get a lot more in our heads now, and I've got 4 little kids. Harder to remember that level of granularity when you're old like me, but this is one way to kind of preserve that and also to focus the way that you collect. So I have a broad scope of interest when it comes to sports, non-sports cards, and sometimes I pick up cards that maybe I don't really know why I'm adding, other than that I think they're cool, and it's a player that I either used to like or I currently like, somebody that played before or an active player. Then I don't always know how to organize them. It's like, well, I kind of bought it because I like this set, this insert set, or this parallel, but I also could organize it, based on the team, or I could put all of this player's cards into a binder. This is a way of organizing and cataloging history in a way that is, I just really haven't heard of anybody doing it like this. So let's say you wanted to do that and you wanted to go from 1993. I picked that because that was really my first full year collecting when I was younger, and then I just kept going from there. So that's where my journey began. You could start with whatever year you wanted. You could do only the Panini era. You could do the 2000s with all the Chrome cards. But you could go and take one card for these players and go back and say, you know what? I don't have any 1993 Mitch Richmond cards of note. You could slot it into your binder, put it in there, and then have at least one card of that player cataloged. Then if you have others, maybe you make the decision to get rid of them, whether they're low dollar and you send them to ComC or put them in a dollar box, or maybe they're higher dollar and that frees up some capital for you to move into something else of interest. But I think this is really cool. I love the idea of being able to flip a binder from page to page and look at the cards in there and say, oh man, I completely forgot about Dana Barros. He was a great three-point shooter. He was lighting up the league, not to the extent that the players do today, but he was a little before his time and was shooting a lot of threes and making a lot of them, 135 in a season. It is actually kind of funny to go back and look in an 82-game season that one of the league leaders in three-pointers made wasn't even averaging 2 threes made per game when we compare that to how the game has evolved today. But that's what that story could tell. You could put little labels as you're going through in with those stats on the front. I like the idea personally of finding a card from these players from that particular year. So if you have Dan Marley and he's on the Phoenix Suns, Thunder Dan, you find a 1993 Fleer card or a Hoops card or something notable, and then you can help, kind of grow these over time. Chances are, if you're picking up notable players too, when you're, rifling through the dollar box or you're on Sport Lots or ComC, you get some of those in. This is a really cool way to make sure that you do have a place to store those. So I'm just kind of scrolling down, and like some of it's been really interesting to me. For example, I'm going to go up and look at Defensive Player of the Year. I've always been a big fan of defense. Here we go, year over year. And there's some names on here that you expect, right? Like Hakeem Olajuwon, Dikembe Mutombo, Gary Payton, the glove, all these guys. Alonzo Mourning was blocking everybody just like Mutombo. Then you get into my guy, Ben Wallace. Then you have these one-off years, right? With Meta World Peace, formerly known as Ron Artest. He was obviously a fantastic defender. He won that award one time. I remember back then thinking Ben Wallace should have won it 5 years in a row. That didn't happen. Marcus Camby, who was like a fantasy legend. He was like one of those guys who filled up the stat sheet in terms of fantasy stats big time. Kevin Garnett, Dwight Howard 3 times in a row. People forget that Tyson Chandler actually won Defensive Player of the Year one year. And he was one of those guys who did it without a ton of stats. He just actually clogged up the middle in a really effective way. Joakim Noah, obviously Jeff's a big Gator fan. Zach, my product manager, a big Bulls fan. So I've kind of lasered in on him, and you can go down the list and look at this. Most recently, Jaren Jackson Jr., go Sparties, obviously won the award this last year. So what if you wanted to, get into this and decide, okay, what cards should I go after? What's a good way to identify some of these? Maybe you want to start building these out. I put in the status column that is owned versus wanted. So if you find a card that you really like, here's another way to insert it in here. Obviously, you can add it as a favorite if it's in our featured card database. So let's jump over to price movements. And I just took a player like Dwayne Wade. Let's say you come in here and you're looking for Dwayne Wade cards and you're like, okay, well, I want to find a 2004 Dwayne Wade card that is notable. Maybe I want to purchase it. You come in here, you can scroll through this list and see what we have in terms of our featured card database. We have his Topps Chrome Refractor in here. And then if you don't find anything else of interest, you can jump over to our new sales history feature. So here's that sales history feature. What if I wanted to find a Joakim Noah card from 2013, which is when he won that Defensive Player of the Year? Well, here you go. You can just scroll through this list. You can sort by price. You can actually filter by price range if you pop into these filters and find a really cool card. So I can pull this up. Here's a really great photo. Okay, that's a pretty cool card. There's a lot of ways that you can go about this. Obviously, you could just go out to eBay or to ComC and explore all of those, but Market Movers does give you some great tools, again, to explore that data and then find ones that are a really good price relative to what they have sold for recently. So there's a reason that I call this the ultimate collector method. This isn't just a collection, it's a way of chronicling and preserving time. In a world that's always moving forward, these cards keep history alive, reminding us of players who defined eras and the moments that left us breathless. So whether you're a die-hard fan or just someone who wants to relive the magic, this binder page is your ticket to the past, a tangible link to the heart and soul of the game that we all love. So what do you think of all of this? Let me know down in the comments. Does this interest you? Is this overkill? Does this take too much work? That took me a couple of hours maybe to put all of that into this sheet, and I did not fill in all of the stats. I still have to pull those in. Baseball has its own stance, but again, if you wanted to focus in on something specific, it doesn't have to be that complicated or that hard to keep track of. If you want to get this data, visit marketmoversapp.com and use that promo code DIVE and you'll get the first 14 days free, 20% off for life. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy investing, keep on collecting, and make sure to have fun.